Hello guys, we're going to go ahead and start today with making sure you fill out your paper. So you need to make sure you have this assignment right here, and so you're going to write your name. Your topic today is 1.4, evaluating expressions. The date is 8/31/2020. Your class, so it should be 8 something, A, B, or C, and then your student number. All right, so here we go. An algebraic expression is a mathematical phrase made up of numbers and variables, which, if you remember, that's letters that represent numbers we don't know at the moment. Okay, so if A, so the substitution property, okay, so whenever we substitute something in for another, it is if A equals B, then A may be replaced for B in any expression. You will definitely use this a lot, especially when you have to justify things when you get into geometry and so forth. Okay, so if you're evaluating expressions, to evaluate an expression with variable replacements, first you're going to substitute the variables with their, so you're going to substitute variables with given values. Each time you substitute a variable with a number, put parentheses around the number. It just helps with keeping things understood and flowing correctly. Okay, and then you follow the order of operations to evaluate. So you're going to plug in the number for the letter, keep it in parentheses, and then follow order of operations. So we're going to work some of these together, not all of them. Here we go. Okay, so for number 1, we're going to notice that A equals 2, so I'm going to take this 2 and I'm going to plug it in for this A. B equals 4, so I'm going to take the 4 and plug it in for the B. The C equals 7, so I'm going to take the 7 and plug it in for the C. So now I rewrite it like it says in the parentheses. So I'm going to have parentheses 2, parentheses 4, squared, because the B is squared. Only the B is squared, plus 7. And now we simplify by using order of operations. So I'm going to do the 4 squared first, so that's going to give me 16. So I'm now going to have 2 times 16, and you can leave that in the parentheses. You don't have to, but you can, plus 7. Bring down the rest. Okay, so we did this. Now we're following order of operations. I'm going to do 2 times 16. That's going to give me 32 plus 7. And then lastly, 32 plus 7 is 39, which is my final answer. All right, next problem, number 4. We're substituting in, so I'm going to have the 4 in for A. So I'm going to have 4 squared on the outside of the parentheses, open parentheses. The B is -7, so I'm going to plug in a -7 in parentheses, minus, and in parentheses here, the -7 squared. This is where you've got to pay attention, and using the parentheses makes it easier because you don't make a mistake, especially in this right here. All right, so now we simplify by using order of operations. Okay, so I'm going to do the 4 squared, and at the same time, I can do the negative 7 squared. 4 squared is going to give me 16 times negative 7, minus, now the negative 7 squared, because it's a negative 7 squared, that gives me a positive 49. And I don't have to write those parentheses because once I squared it, the parentheses are gone. And here we go. Now I'm going to do the 16 times negative 7, and that gives me a negative 112 minus 49. And we can realize now these are both negative, so therefore I'm doing teamwork, so I'm actually adding them together. My answer is going to be negative, and I get a negative 161 as my answer. And our next example is number 6. And I chose this one, obviously, because it's got the fraction, so we can make sure that we're understanding this correctly. So I plug in my information. The first step is plugging in my information. So I'm going to have a negative, and then in the parentheses, I have the y, so I'm going to have negative 12 squared. Oh, I chose the wrong color pen, but that's okay. Minus 3, open parentheses, negative 5/6, close parentheses, and then y in parentheses, negative 12. Remember that when they're right next door to each other, no operation, that means multiplication that's happening. All right, so now we're doing our order of operations deal going on here. So I've got the negative 12 squared, and then at the same time, I can do this the negative 3 times the negative 5/6. Now remember, to make this 3 into a fraction, we do 3 over 1. So this is going to become 3 over 1. And we're going to have, this is a negative, that's understood to be a negative 1. So I'm going to have negative 1, and then I'm going to have negative 12 squared, that's a positive 144. Now when I do negative 3 times a negative 5/6, that's going to give me a positive. Now when I look at this, 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 6 twice. So therefore I end up with a positive 5/2 times a negative 12. Or if you want to just do the multiplication of the negative 3 over 1 times the negative 5/6, you end up with a positive 15 over 6, which is going to simplify to 5 over 2. It's your choice how you want to think about it. And now we do order of operations. Again, multiply, multiply. So this is going to be a negative 144 plus, now here, 2 is in the denominator. So if I'm working this, 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 12 6 times. So now I'm doing 5 times negative 6, and that gives me a negative 30. They're both negative. So my final answer is going to be a negative 174. Okay, next problem. We have a couple more just because it's just kind of going through and working through the different types of examples, so you're exposed to all types. Plugging them in, here we go. So I'm going to have 3 squared plus 4 squared all over, because this is the fraction type, so I'm going to have in parentheses 3 minus 4 in the parentheses. Here you don't have to write the parentheses because there's no multiplication going on, but if you write it, it's absolutely okay. Now, when it's fractions, I like to leave them as fractions. And here we go. So I've got 3 squared, so I'm going to do the exponents and this at the same time. So I'm going to have 9 plus 16 all over negative 1. 9 plus 16 is 25 divided by negative 1, which gives me a final answer of negative 25. Next problem, number 9. We have think I'm gonna leave this one for y'all to do. Yeah, we're gonna jump down and do number 11, but I think y'all are good with that one. So you just got to follow your integer rules. Okay, number 11, plugging them in. So I'm gonna have negative 2 squared minus 2 times 3 times negative 3 minus absolute value of negative 3. Okay, so with this, we've got to remember we're doing order of operations. So I'm going to have to take care of the absolute value, the negative 2 squared, and this multiplication right here. I can do all of that at the same time. So I'm going to have negative 2 squared, that's going to give me 4. Negative 2 times 3, that gives me a negative 6 times the negative 3 here. And then the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. Remember, that's the distance from 0. Okay, here we go. Moving right along. Order of operations, that's going to become, because this is understood to be a 1, so that's negative 1 times 4, so that's going to give me negative 4. I can do the negative 6 times the negative 3. That gives me plus 18, and then I just bring this down, minus 3. And now we do the order of operations as it comes from left to right. So I'm doing negative 4 plus 18, so that's going to give me 14 minus 3, which gives me a final answer of 11. Your assignment is going to be to finish I think I had something else that I wanted y'all to do. So once you have finished these, finish copying video notes. Tell me in chat. Y'all have a great day.